but don't give up on your dream because you have children, because you will be unhappy, and then you're gonna have everyone around you unhappy.
Welcome to the Strong Dad Show with your host, Adam Lloyd. Together, we are stronger.
Guys, welcome back to the Strong Dad Show, and today I am honoured to be joined by Mostafa Salameh. He's a father of 5, world-renowned adventurer, humanitarian and motivational speaker. He is also the first Arab and Muslim climber to have completed the Explorer's Grand Slam, a challenge that includes climbing the highest peaks of the 7 continents and skiing to both the North and South Poles. His efforts have also resulted in the raising of $8.1 million for global causes. Mostafa, welcome to the Strong Dad Show.
Hello, Adam. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry I couldn't make it to be there in Wales with you, but here we are. We wanted to do it in person, but things didn't go as we planned.
Everything happens for a reason, and we don't get frustrated
Yes.
over things outside of our control. But again, thank you for giving us your time to talk to us today. Like I said, it would have been great
My
in
pleasure.
person, but it's equally as great to do it virtually. So, Mostafa, one thing I always start the episodes with, it's a little bit of an early on tradition, but what I do at the end of an episode, and I'll do the same with yourself, is I'll ask you to provide some advice to my next guest when they were 16 years old. You won't know who it is, but basically, if you was to meet him when he was 16 years old, what life advice would you give him? Now, my previous guest, Phil Holdcroft, former combat pilot in the Air Force and an adventurer and an endurance athlete in his own right. His advice to you, to give you when you were 16 years old, but he didn't know who was coming on the show. His advice was 2-part. First of all, always question the advice you're given by your parents. And that is from his experience. Don't just take it for granted. Always question their advice. But then his second part of advice to you when you were 16 would be that resilience is a lifelong project. At no point are you complete. What's your thoughts on those?
Beautiful.
Yeah?
Beautiful. I love it. And I did question all the time when I was young. I always questioned my mom and dad about everything, and I think that was something on me since I was a little boy. And I agree, resilience is one of the biggest things that helped me to achieve the Grand Slam and achieve everything that I achieved in my life, from doing everything from being in the dishwasher to reach the South Pole and to be in the top of Everest.
100%. And for the guys listening in and watching in, I'll also provide a link tomorrow. But Mostafa has got a book called Dreams of a Refugee, which I've read, and I'm going to read again because it's just incredible. But throughout that book, it is just resilience, isn't it? But not just resilience, determination. So, Mostafa, we had our introduction there. First Arab and Muslim climber to complete the Grand Slam. What is the Grand Slam?
So the Grand Slam is climbing the 7th summit of the world, which is the highest point in each of the 7 continents. I'll name them. The highest point in North America, in Alaska, which is Denali. The highest point in South America, which is in Argentina, Aconcagua. The highest point in Antarctica, which is Vinson Massif. The highest point in Africa, which is Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. The highest point in Europe, which is Elbrus in Russia, the highest point in Oceania, which is Carten's Permits in Papua New Guinea, and of course the highest point in the world, which is Everest. And to ski the South Pole, which I did the Messenger route, and ski in the North Pole. And I topped it up as the icing in the cake, which I crossed the island from north to the south.
Wow. That is just an incredible achievement. But where did it all start then? Take me back to the early days. Where was you born, and what was your upbringing like? Was it surrounded by adventurers and explorers?
Not really. I mean, it wasn't surrounded at all. I mean, I was born in Kuwait. It's a desert place. I was born from a refugee family who flee Palestine to take a refuge in Jordan. Most of my summer, I spent it in the refugee camp, which is when we used to visit my granddad, we used to go and sleep there. This is where the adventure started, at the refugee camp, really. So to be honest, I've never knew anything about mountaineering or polar adventure or anything like this. Most of the stuff I knew with sport is boxing, because this is something that I really loved since I was a little boy. And I joined the club where my dad also used to train. And this is where, and I think also this boxing things and the training I had, it really came in a benefit when I started doing that line. So we were between Jordan and Kuwait when the Gulf War happened in Kuwait. I just finished my high school, moved to Jordan again. I was there. I really wanted to go and finish my study, but my dad didn't have the money, and we just lost everything in Kuwait. So I had to start working in the restaurant as a waiter, and this is where the journey started. And since I was a kid, I always loved to read about Shakespeare, and I really loved to read all the classical in Arabic, because it was all translated. Okay. And I always wanted to go to England, because that was, and most of my friends went to America, but I always wanted to go to England. And by coincidence, I was serving this table 1989, and this man told me, "Do you want to go to England?" And I thought he was joking. And I said, "Yes, I would love to go." He said, "My brother is the Jordanian ambassador in London, and he wants something to work in the house to make coffee and to greet guests." And I greeted many guests, from the King of Jordan to Prince Charles to Princess Diana, to lots of people who used to come to see the king and the residence. So that's where it started. I had no English whatsoever. My aim was to help my family, was to help my dad to keep my brother and sister at school. Stayed there for about a year. I knew I wasn't learning anything, so I had to leave the ambassador. I left the ambassador, and I worked in Richmond in a restaurant called the Naked Turtle. It's a wine jazz restaurant, and I had an experience in waiting table, but of course I had no English, so he had to put me in the kitchen. And I was in that kitchen for 5 years, and I've learned English from getting up early in the morning to watch Sesame Street and pick up the Sun, because it was the easiest newspaper to read. And I've really learned English this way by practicing. I used to write 10 words, 10 sentences, and practice it in the kitchen with the waiters coming and stuff. 5 years later, I was promoted to become a waiter again, because my English was becoming better. So I moved, and my dream was to become a general manager for a 5-star hotel in hospitality. I wanted to become in hospitality. So 7 years later, I had enough money to go to university. I saved £27,000 from working 2 shifts every single day. Maybe I can't remember having many days off. And in 1997, I went to the cinema and I watched Braveheart. And I was fascinated by Braveheart in Scotland. So I thought, this is the place I wanted to go and move. And I left it for a year after I watched Trainspotting, and I thought, that's exactly where I'm going to go. So I moved to Scotland. I joined Queen Margaret University, and I studied for 4 years international hospitality and tourist management. I joined the Sheraton, and I become the director of food and beverage manager for the Sheraton. And maybe I will have another 2, 3, maximum 4 years, and I'll become a general manager. But everything changed in 2004. When I wake up from a dream, about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I was completely sweating. And I saw myself on the top of the world praying. I got up, I've changed my clothes because I was so wet, went to the kitchen, and I Googled the highest point in the world, and here is Everest came up. I thought Everest was in America, to be honest. I had no idea.
You didn't even know what the highest point in the world was?
No, Not really, not
Wow,
really. What's that?
really removed from
Well,
it then.
not really. I've never really been exposed to any of these
Yeah.
stuff. Never really thought about it, And yeah, this is where the mountaineering started. So, but everything, you know what, everything it built up is like the question that your guest has asked before is, I think everything that you do when you're young from early age, it's something preparing you a little bit. If you take it seriously, and if you ask the question, if you have the knowledge, I think when the time come, then you will be ready to take anything that come into your life. And listen, I wasn't, yes, I used to play boxing when I was young. Sometimes I used to do sparring, but to be honest, I was smoking maybe 2 packets of cigarette every day. I was in this hospitality things, like really concentrating and really working hard. So I become where I want to go. And the only exercise I had really is to go on a weekend with my friend, go clubbing and dance for how long. And that's it. That was the biggest things I did. Never even visited the gym or unless I'm going to spar with somebody, but I didn't do anything. So when it came and I looked at the highest point in Everest, I didn't really know what it means until I spoke to a friend of mine, Simon, who does hiking and stuff, and he always do skiing. And he said, the first things he said, what did you take last night? I said, I didn't take anything. He said, he said, he said, are you serious? I mean, this is not easy. What do you think? This is not. So, he was giving me advice. He said, listen, why not call a company called Jagged Globe and ask them? They will give you all the information. So I called a guy called Simon in a Jagged Globe and I told him this is what I do. He said, listen, anybody can climb Everest, but you need to do a 5,000 meter, a 6,000 meter, a 7,000. You need to train, you need to be fit, you need the money, so calculated everything. And it was about £150,000 to do the training and to go to Everest. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try to get, to see. I knew there were no Arabs or anybody who was climbing mountains. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go back to Jordan and see if somebody will take me. And, I came to Jordan for about a week and nobody took me seriously. I mean, it's like I'm talking completely something, My dad took me seriously then. And some of my friends who knew me really well took me seriously. And he said, that's good. You can do it, but, there is not very easy. And, lots of people say, listen, you've been working in your career to become a general manager. You're not far from there, just
Give
leave
it up.
it. What do you want? Yeah. I mean, the majority of people who will tell you, what are you talking about? Just leave. What are you doing? I mean, and, nobody took me seriously. And you know what? I love reading then. I was reading lots and lots of books. And one of the book I actually recently was reading, it's about the journey of Christopher Columbus. And I remember that everything that Christopher Columbus used to do, it was sponsored by kings and queen. And I thought, you know what, if I can get to Jordan, King of Jordan, if he took me seriously, maybe I will make it. So I've searched everything in the net about King Abdullah of Jordan. What does he do? I've heard some of his speeches. His mom he's half English, half Jordanian. His mom is English. So, and he was in boarding school in England. He studied his university in England. And then there is one thing was there that he used to read he still read the Sunday Time. He
Okay.
liked to read the Sunday Time. And when I worked in London, I was doing the training with the Sheraton. There is somebody who used to come at the restaurant, and I called him. He worked in a Sunday Time, and he wrote an article about me. It says climbing for peace and for the King of Jordan. Was in the dream was in January 2004. The article went out in February 2004, and I got a call in the end of February from the King office saying we need to talk to you. And
Wow.
I
So
thought, oh,
less than 8 weeks from the dream.
less than
Eh,
8 weeks.
so one thing,
Was good.
yeah, and I know, and I know you've read the book The Alchemist, because you talk about it in your book, and Paulo Coelho within The Alchemist, or the story talks about how once you've found or identified your destiny, almost, that the universe will work
Help
to
you.
help you achieve it. And it sounds like that's
Absolutely.
what happened there. It's sort of like Santiago, the young boy who's
Absolutely.
within The Alchemist. He
Absolutely.
just has this dream. He has the dream in that sort of ruined church with it in Andalusia, I believe it is.
Yes.
It's so very similar, isn't it? You just had this dream seemingly come from nowhere, because you wasn't looking into mountaineering beforehand. It just came from nowhere. And do you think that's
Absolutely.
what it is? You found your destiny or your path, and the
I
universe?
think so. I think so. It's not just the destiny. I think I found it, then I didn't know where it was going, but I knew there is something very serious I have to take. And I know Santiago was always looking for the treasure. And I knew there is always something bigger going to come in your way, and you have to take it. And, mentioning Paulo Coelho, and, he did write something about me on Instagram and on Twitter, which was absolutely amazing. I loved it when he did that. But that book, definitely, I read it in 1997. My best friend Caroline gave it to me, and I loved that book. And it always resonates with me that if you want something, you have to follow to the end to get it, and you have to believe in the omens. You have to believe also in something bigger than you. And I think this dream was something bigger than me. It was giving me a signal to go for it, and I think that's exactly what Santiago did, and what I did is that I follow through, and that's why I didn't give up when I went to Jordan, and everyone said, just leave it. And I thought, no, I'm not going to leave it. I'm going to try everything I can. And and it came from, the king, was the huge support, because when he believed in idea, because I knew, what, when I had the phone call, the guy in the phone was saying, no, why are you quoting His Majesty? Why are you writing? Who allowed you to do this? Because I quoted His Majesty. But I knew deep inside that this guy called me at the Sheraton when I was working. I knew that they're not going to call me like this. It must have something. And I knew the story and what happened when we start writing the script for the movie. And we knew exactly what happened, because we start asking a question, how did the king know? So, but that belief had changed my life in 2004, because this is where everything started. And they brought me to Jordan. I was very prepared. I have everything prepared. After I spoke to Simon, I had exactly where I want to go. Simon said, listen, you're going to start in April to go to Mera Peak in the Himalaya, then go straight in May to Lakpari in Tibet. And then June, you go to Alaska to climb the highest point
All planned.
which is one of the most difficult one after Everest, to be honest, from the
Is it?
summit. I don't know why he put that in his schedule, but this is the company is selling their trips. I took it. I had no idea what he was talking about. So and then I had something to do in July and August and September and October and to go to Antarctica in January, and then go to Everest in April 2005. So when I spoke to the guys in the King office, says, listen, we will fund you for 3 trips. Mirabik, Lakbari, and if you make it to the highest point in North America, then we're going to take you seriously. If you don't make it, you take the gear that we bought you and don't call us again. Don't you ever write an article about the king. And I didn't know then that, Denali was difficult. And I think the guy in Royal Palace maybe did his homework, and he knew that, he's not going to make it to Alaska. So I they give me the money for this. I went to Glasgow. Can't remember the shop. I went there to buy some stuff. And listen, I had this massive list, and I give it to the guy, and he was asking me what kind of carabiner and ice. I said, listen, I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea what carabiner is. I've never seen a carabiner or ice pick. So he was like, is it how you do it?
And this is
So
just a
anyway,
normal outdoor shop, just on the high street.
exactly. It's like he was very happy because I must spent about 2.5 grand or something. So I took the stuff. I went to Meribik, like with all this gear, everything is still in a tag. And a guy called Ian Short, was the guide, and he was thinking, "What is this?" I said, "Listen, I paid the money for for Jaggy Globe, and I'm doing this trip with you guys. So you need to teach me." So Meribik, I reached about maybe just 300 under the summit, and I had to go down. I was sick. I was cold. I couldn't use any of this stuff. And straight away, I finished with this expedition. I met somebody else, an English lady who was the guide, and with other group, and we went up to Lackberry in the north side of Everest. It's a 7,200 meter. I had a snow blind, and I had to come down to Everest Base Camp, and I was treated by an Italian doctors, and then I have to leave. And in June, I was in America to climb the highest point in North America, and I made it to the top. And I think I made it because I was acclimatized. I was in the Himalaya, I've reached 5,800. I was in Lakpuri, I've reached about 6,200 or 300. And then, so I was acclimatized. So I went there, I was carrying everything. I had a great guide, Todd, and I made it. And I called the Royal Palace, and they said, "Well done. We're very happy." My news was all over newspaper in Jordan. The king was very proud, and this is where the whole thing started. And then the money starts coming. And then I said to myself, you know what? I need to learn the technicality of these stuff. I need to know how to do the ropes and stuff. And this is when I went to France and Switzerland, and I've trained there with Kenton Cole, who was the guide. I'm sure you know Kenton. Kenton is the British guy who climbed Everest now about 16 or 17 times.
I've heard his name, definitely.
Yeah, so he's amazing. So I trained with him, with another French guy. I've done all the technicality stuff. And then in September, I went to Elbrus. I climbed the highest point in Europe. And then I went to Antarctica. I climbed Vincent Massive. And then I went to Everest in 2005, but I didn't make it to the top. I've reached Camp 3, and then I had a bleeding ulcer, and I have to come down. And then I thought, okay, I need to continue. Go in 2007 to climb Everest, and I had a chest infection before I hit base camp. Coughing so much, I didn't make it. I paid $85,000. I didn't make it to Camp 1. I dislocated my ribs, and I have to come down. And I was training, doing other mountain, because I didn't know anything about the Seventh Summit, or the Seventh Summit existed. And when I knew that from all other climbers and stuff, I thought, this is where I will concentrate to do the Seventh Summit plus Everest. And 2008, I went to Everest without an organized team or international company. I took a Sherpa with me, and I made it to the top in Jordan Independence Day. And this is when everything changed, really. So
that summit then in 2008, like you said, that wasn't with a company. That was almost sort of independent, just you with a Sherpa. Obviously, you built up a lot of experience. You've learned all the technicalities. You've learned from multiple failures, really, and built up your fitness as well. And that was on Jordanian Independence Day.
Yes, I've reached the top. I've reached the top there. I had a satellite phone. I called my mom and dad. And then, I thought I'm going to reach the summit by 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning, but I didn't know what happened. We were super, super, super strong. I was in my element. I had a great time. I started using oxygen when we left Camp 3. And then we didn't even sleep in Camp 4, Adam. We normally sleep in Camp 4 and you leave the next night. We stayed for about 5 hours in Camp 4, and then we left to the summit. And we came back to Camp 4 just to have a cup of tea, and then we went down to Camp 3 to Camp 2. So we did about 32 hours up to from Camp 3 all the way back to Camp 2, because we were super strong. Me and him, we passed everyone. We were in a summit for 45 minutes, 45 minutes. Nobody were there. I had footage. I have all this footage, videos and stuff standing there. And, we reached the summit at 6:50 a.m. That's about 4:50 in Jordan. And I thought, how am I going to call the king at like 5 o'clock in the morning? But they insisted when I left, his brother, who's a great supporter for me, he said, you have to call, because I told him I'm going to be in the top in Jordan on Wednesday. So I have this satellite Thuraya phone, and I'm calling this number he gave me. And I'm shouting, my name is Mostafa Salameh. I'm in the top of the world. I need to speak to His Majesty. And this guy in the phone thinking, oh, what this idiot. And he put the phone down. I thought, okay, shit, this is not going to work. So I'm not going to be able to wait here for another 2 hours. So I called the king brother, Prince Ali, and I told him I'm in the top. I called him in his mobile. And then he said, okay, the king will call you. And yes, the king. The first things he said, I hope you are in the summit of Everest calling me at this time. I said, I am. I wouldn't call you otherwise. So, so I came down, I was knighted by His Majesty, and, and he did ask me, what's next? I said, I want to finish the 7th summit because I had 2 left from the 7th summit. I got a great support, and then I went back to university to do a master degree in outdoor education studies, because I thought, listen, I'm not going to be able to go back to hospitality after all this. So I want to start doing it, become my passion. Yeah. So, and by 2010 or 11, I finished the last of the 7th summit, which is Carlton's Permits. And I think when I met the king again, and he said, are you not thinking to do any of the polar? And I said to him, I don't know how to ski, Your Majesty. He said, well, you can learn how to ski. I said, okay. So this is when the next chapter started. And then I knew something called to be honest, I have no idea there is something called Grand Slam until when I finished the North Pole. And then somebody told me, something called Grand Slam. I said, no. He said, if you do the South Pole. I said, okay, well, I'll go and do the South Pole as well. So this is where I did. So that's by 2016, I've completed the Grand Slam. And then, I opened my company called MSA Adventures, start doing all this like trips. And it really started, the trips started, Adam, in a place, in a hospital called King Hussein Cancer Center. And I was there because I started doing these motivational talks for schools, because normally people, we don't have something like this. So I started doing these school stuff. And I went to the hospital to do it for the kids at the cancer hospital. And I was doing something at the play room of the kids. And the nurse came to me and she said, listen, there is one of the patients, she's 11 years old, and her immune system is really low. Would you go to her room? I said, yes. So I went to her room, I put the mask, I took my laptop, and she asked me 3 questions, which has really changed my life in 2013. And she said to me that, how long did it take you to climb Everest? I said, about 72 days in 2008. And she said, how long did you stay in the top? I said, 45 minutes. What do you take to be safe? I said, we take harnesses, we take ropes, we have a team. I have a Sherpa who was always with me. And she said, you know what? I've been climbing my own Everest in the past 3 years. And I come to this hospital once a week or twice to do chemotherapy. And I stay in my summit of pain for more than 45 minutes. And, and I always try to find the people who will give me hope. And you should give people hope. And that was an 11 years old. And to be honest, she made me feel nothing, like everything I've have already achieved, it meant nothing to what she said. And I thought, you know what? She's so right. I'm doing everything. Me. I'm too going up. I'm taking the flag. But then, I'm not doing anything for anybody. So this is when I started something called From the Lowest to the Highest for Cancer. And I started taking these celebrities in Jordan and the Middle East who never did anything in their life or climbing, took them to Kilimanjaro and Everest Base Camp because they are the easiest one. And the first trip was in 2014, I think. And I took people like all these celebrities to Everest Base Camp and we raised about 850. And then 2015, I took a big team, also celebrities and some Royal Highnesses to Kilimanjaro, fundraising 1.6 million. And then it became something that's exactly will be my aim is climb for cause. Even when I went to the South Pole and the ski the South Pole, it was for cancer, and I fundraise money for cancer. So everything I'm doing now, every single climb I do it has to mean something. It's not just for me to go and climb. So, and yeah, since then until 2025, I managed to climb to fundraise 8.1 million, and this is all for charity like cancer, like orphans, like refugees. I took the first man in a wheelchair to the top of Kilimanjaro. I took a blind group to go to Kilimanjaro, and amputees who lost their limbs and stuff. Some last year we did, 2 years ago, we did a documentary by taking an Ukrainian refugee, an Afghani and Syrian and Palestinian to the top of Kilimanjaro. So that becomes something, my passion is to take people who never climbed the mountain, who really wanted to do something, change their life. I worked with a guy who was 240 kilogram. His name is Hanna. I'm from Jordan. And for 5 years, I worked with him. He came in a different trip. He didn't make it to the summit, but he was trying to lose weight, and he did. In 2018, I took him to the top of Elbrus, the highest point in Europe, and he was 99
Wow.
kilogram, and he's going to come and join me in Kilimanjaro. It's his unfinished business. And yeah, so these are the things that I really love to do, and and of course, try to inspire and that the next generation, especially in the Middle East, to take outdoor and climbing as a sport, and that's why I've wrote two children book, one called Everest, Dare to Dream, and recently another one called Kilimanjaro. And I have another one that's going to come out about South Pole, North Pole. So I want to write 7 children book in each continent, and each stuff that I did, I want to concentrate on. And of course, Dream of Refugee, the one you have that was published by Bloomsbury in 2016, and the forward by His Majesty as well, which was an honor. And I've recently wrote another book called رحلة الصعود الارتقاء. It's a spiritual journey in the mountains, everything about spirituality on the mountain. So concentrating on that and trying to change people's lives, and in the same time, try to do a good things that make a difference for my society and for the world, not just for where I live, but for everyone that need. And I had lots of people from all over the world, to mentor people, especially young people who sometimes may be lost or have problems and stuff. And I'm always happy to help and be there.
No, I love that, and it's something you mentioned there about the what you do now and why you do it, and it's something I always say when I'm speaking to guys and helping them to set their goals. And one of the terms I always fall back on is the Japanese term of ikigai. Have you heard of the Japanese term ikigai?
No.
So Ikigai, fantastic book, Ikigai. But the concept of Ikigai is basically, imagine 4 circles. Have what you love to do, what you're good at, what the world
Okay.
needs, and what you can get paid for. What you love and what you're good at is typically your passion. What you're good at and what the world needs is typically a profession. What the world needs, what you can get paid for is a vocation. What you can get paid for and what you love is typically like a mission kind of thing. But essentially, where all of these circles then interact straight in the middle, that's your ikigai. It's your purpose, your reason for getting out of bed. And it's one thing I always say to guys when they're trying to align their lives is, I say passion is selfish in the sense that it only serves you. Purpose
Yeah.
is selfless in the sense that it serves other people. And if you can find your passion and align it with a purpose, exactly what you've done here, you're doing what you love, but you're doing it to serve other people as well. So on that note then, with your company, you've raised $8.1 million so far. What's your ultimate goal? Do you have a goal or you just keep going?
I mean, the goal is always fundraise as much money as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal is to always make a difference. And I think there is always an opportunity that come now. There is lots of opportunity that I choose the best one that help other. That is the biggest goal for me. The biggest goal is to see my kids, you know, wanted to do exactly what to do, to grow up healthy and, uh, and also for me to finish the 7 books for the children so I can leave a mark on outdoor and mountaineering in the Middle East, because that's his goal. For me, it's always to make the change. And I made, and since I was a little boy in that refugee camp, it's always wanted to make a difference and help others. So I always wanted to do this little work to help my mom. I left Jordan because I wanted to help my family. And I went to university because I wanted to help myself and to achieve my dream. Because my ultimate goal was to become a general manager for a 5-star hotel so I can travel the world. So when this dream came, I knew then what is my goal. But when I met that 11 years old girl, I knew where my passion is. It's actually not new. She reminded me what the passion was, which is helping other. So every goal that I do is helping other, from helping my kids, helping my family, to help everyone else.
That's very strong, very strong. And you mentioned that one of the books you're writing or writing at the moment is on spirituality and finding spirituality in the mountains. The period between 1997, when you read The Alchemist, and 2004, when you had that dream, what went on within that period? Was there any travel? Was there any effort of you embarking on your own spirituality, or was it just day-to-day stuff, really?
It's day-to-day stuff. And I think when I finished university, I traveled to India in 2001, I think, because I always wanted to go. One of my best friend went to India, and I always wanted to go to India. And that's really uh, the spirituality maybe came from India, because I've learned a lot, and I learned about Sufism from India. And this has gave me, you see, everything that you do throughout your life, taking that opportunity and do it. I think it helps you when it comes to the big things that you want to do. And I think that trip to India definitely helped me, because that was the only travel I did for the past, since I moved to England in 1990 until 2001. That was the first time I actually traveled. And then I traveled again in 2004 to Jordan to tell people about my dream. But I think that really wake me up. Reading books like reading The Prophet by Gibran Khalil Gibran, The Alchemist, reading stuff like Sufi's Word, reading some stuff about the Greek mythology and Egyptian mythology. These, because I loved history, and I loved everything about history. And I was also stuff like adventure, but I didn't know that adventure was the things that was waiting for me.
You just liked reading it.
Yes, I just loved reading it. I was so, I was so excited to read a new book about, reading anything that has any, and I love that true story with the speciality as well, because it gave me something. But in the same time, I was working. I was working 2 shifts. Even when I went to university, I finished and I used to go and work because I wanted to be able to to pay for the room in this shared flats and stuff, and keep myself going and keep helping my family. Since I left, I was helping my family. Even when I was studying, I was sending them some money. So, I felt like I have a responsibility in myself and people around me, which was my family. So
The talk with the 11-year-old girl in the hospital, she reminded you of that. Did you almost sort of get wrapped
I
up in
think so.
in the mountaineering world where there was what's my next goal, and she reminded you that actually,
Absolutely.
yeah, you've got a skill set here, but remember where your heart's at.
Absolutely. And we are a human. Sometimes your
Yeah,
ego take over,
it
and
does.
you think, oh, I'm doing this and that, and I totally forgot the sense of reality. And this is exactly, and I think God sent that little girl and she sent an 11 years old girl, somebody who was, very young, to teach me the biggest lesson I've learned all my life, better than I studied at university or The Alchemist. That was a real story, which this girl in a small room, this lady who 3 years having a cancer, and she didn't survive, by the way. She died, I think, 6 months after. She affected my life more than anybody. So, like, my mom always affected my life as a figure since I was a little boy. She was the force behind me believing I can do anything I want. And, my dad believed everything I want to do, but my mom was the force behind it, because I can see how she raised these 10 boys
Yeah.
in a smaller flat while my father was traveling in this big lorry bringing furniture from different part of the world to Kuwait. He was a lorry driver. And then when he was in Kuwait, he was in a theater or he was in a boxing gym. So, and that's where I stayed with him, and I've learned. So, yeah, so I think, my mom was the biggest force. It was that, a woman who really made me who I am, and a woman or a little girl
Yeah,
who actually remind me that, you're not, so what?
yeah,
Look at me. I've
yeah.
been fighting my own Everest for how many years? So yeah, it's good. It's good to be reminded, and you have to be so humble to take that advice and reminder, not to look at somebody and you think, what she's talking about. But, I took it very seriously. So, and it was the best things I did, because, you know, lots and lots of the trips that I did was for to making change in people's life.
And her words have, like you said, they've inspired such a mission within you that you're now $8.1 million for global
Absolutely.
causes and rising still. So one of the links that I found insane with your life and that of Santiago from The Alchemist, it's all crazy, but it was when you was in India and you got married, didn't you?
Yes, yes, I did.
You got married to a woman in Kashmir, in a village.
Kashmir, yes, a village.
The link that I found crazy was her name's Fatima, which is
Yes.
which is the same name as the girl who Santiago ends up falling in love with, because he finds her in the oasis in the desert, and her name's Fatima. And at the end of the book, he
Absolutely.
says he almost smells or he feels her kiss on the wind, and he says, "Fatima, I'm coming for you." And I was like, "Wow, this is insane! These links are crazy." But yeah,
It is.
I had to throw that out there
And
because
with
that
the
is
alchemist, I think with the alchemist is crazy, because honestly, when I sometimes, especially when at the South Pole, actually, I took the book with me and I've read it again, and I've understand it a little bit more different. And when I knew the background story about the book and about Paulo Coelho and his life and how he used to work in a TV station and stuff, when I knew more, I thought, you know what? It's everything is coming together. It's really, it's like I read that book because there is a reason for it. Because in 2004, I will be dreaming that dream, and I had no idea I'm gonna get to where I am. Didn't dream of thinking that I would do anything like this. or to climb in Everest or do anything. And, all my friends were the same because, you know, they knew who I am and, and they know what I do. So, but, I think when there is a beautiful verse in the Quran, it says, and I always, always, always say it, it says, that Bismillah ar-Rahim, إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم صدق الله العظيم. God does not change the condition in you until you want to change it, and you will be able to change everything around you. So and this is what I did. I made the change. I stopped smoking. I started training. I took it very, very seriously, and it became my passion. And because I knew that dream was a signal for me, because there is something bigger for me there that I have to take. So, but I had to change everything, and I had to have the right intention as well, because it's very important. We always say there is also in the Middle East, إنما الأعمال بالنيات. If you have the good intention, God made life opened so many doors, and lots and lots of doors open for me, especially how expensive to climb and to go and do the polar adventure and stuff. And, I had an amazing, amazing sponsorship from the king to different companies and bank. And, I end up with becoming the ambassador for land for Range Rover in the Middle East and North Africa, which was big. And I did some adverts for them. So it's great because these people has believed in what I do, and it was good. And every time I have an idea to go and to do something, I always had that sponsorship there, which really made things easy.
It's certainly very important. In what you're saying there aligns to a lot of people believe in almost like that law of attraction, don't they? When you believe something and you have confidence in the universe's ability to deliver, the doors get opened. But one of the things you mentioned was around having the right intentions, almost having the right why, isn't it? You mentioned that verse within the Quran, and like,
Definitely.
God won't change you.
Definitely.
You've got to be willing to be changed and change yourself. And it's something I always say to guys is, if, say, for example, you're overweight, but you want to become athletic, you can't continue acting like an overweight person and thinking like an overweight person and hope you're going to become athletic. You have to change now, start acting like you're an athletic person, which will change your habits, what you eat, how you move, all that kind of stuff in order to get there.
Very well said. Very well said. Exactly. That's how you can be able to change.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You have to start almost acting or being the person that you want to be in order to become that person. So
yeah.
A lot of, and again, you've almost underplayed how difficult these climbs are, like climbing Everest and stuff like that. I mean, 72 days the trip takes, does it, to get up to Everest?
Yeah, I mean, in 2008, I mean, normally I would say between, 5 to 7 weeks, but because in 2008, the Chinese were taking the Olympic torch from the north side. So we have to wait on the south side until the Chinese go up to the top and light the torch. So nobody were allowed. I tell you, it was this Nepalese army at 22,000 feet blocking the way for anybody to go to Camp 3. So we are waiting and waiting and waiting until Chinese made it to the top and we were able to move. And because I wanted to climb Everest in Jordan Independence Day, so I had to wait until the 25th of May. And I was there, in the mid of March or something. So it took a lot of time for me to, to get there. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, 2008 was the best time I went to Everest. I felt so healthy. I felt the fittest. I wasn't with a group of people and companies and stuff. I was just me and the Sherpa. We got on really well together. He's absolutely one of the most amazing Sherpas. Actually, he's the only human to paraglide from the top of Everest in 2011 and 2012 or 13. He was in National Geographic magazine. I think he was in the cover as National Geographic Man of the Year or something.
Wow.
So, but super, super humble, super lovely person. And, he's still, one of my best friend. I brought him to Jordan to do scuba diving. I took him to climb Kilimanjaro with me and Elbrus, and we did a lot of expedition together. We're still in contact, and he opened his company, a paragliding company in Bukhara. So I always go and visit him. So we still have this amazing relationship, because without him, I don't think I'll climb Everest. And I think, you said something, underplay Everest. I know some people come up and, and I see some people with some interviews and stuff who does like the South Pole and Everest. Yes, it's challenging. Yes, it's difficult, but don't make it as an impossible thing. It's not. Anybody can do it. And I always say, anybody can climb Everest. If I did it, anybody can do it. If I skied the South Pole, which was difficult than Everest for me,
Was it?
anybody can do it. Yeah, definitely. So, but listen, there is nothing impossible and difficult. If you have, I always say to people, listen, when I do a talk for corporate or for school, I always say to people, 70% of climbing mountain, 70% of going to the South Pole, doing the seventh summit is here mentally. And you have 30%. 10% is money and sponsorship. If you have that, then you'll be fine. You don't have to think about it. This is the most difficult one. The other 10% is definitely the technicality. You need to learn everything about the mountain, what you're wearing, what you want to wear, the technicality, the ropes, GBA, everything about the mountain you need to know. And the last 10% is physical, which is you need to be fit. Don't put yourself in a place where you go to these extreme adventure or extreme weather and you have no idea, and you gabbing for air. No, be fit, like try your best, because when you are at 8,500 meter and you have 300 meter going to the top of Everest, and you cannot move, and your mind is telling you, you know what, you did not train properly, and you didn't do this, and you didn't do this, and maybe you're going to go back. But if you did everything you can do, you can tell your mind, I've done everything I can do, then you can move. Your body is moving. So these 70% mentally is like anything in life, anything that you do. If you don't have it here, if you don't if you don't want it so much, you're not gonna for it. You really want to do it. You really need to understand it. You need to have the knowledge as well. Going to the South Pole, for me, I met Ranulph Fiennes
Way.
on Everest. Yeah, I met him in 2008, and he didn't make it. He was actually, I was going up in Camp 3 and he was coming down. He was climbing with Kenton Cole. I said to him, congratulations, Ranulph, and he said, I didn't make it. The fucking whatever turned me back, but because he was having a heart attack. So, and he made it again in 2009. But I met him, and before, and actually, if you look at the book in the front, I don't know if you notice in the front, he wrote something about.
Yes. Yeah, I noticed
He
it
had
straight away. I was like, no way. Yeah, right there.
So, and I asked him what his advice for me to go and do the Masseter route, and he said to me, which was the best advice. He said, "Put everything wrong that's gonna go, everything wrong, but all the negative stuff that's gonna go, and learn how to make it positive." And this is exactly what I did. So, training, having the knowledge, and having the goal. Why are you going to the South Pole to spend 60 days? Why are you doing it? You must have a very good reason to do it. So, all this stuff together, and then you can do it. I mean, anybody is watching here. I can tell you, you can climb Everest if you really want to do it. If you're overweight, the first things you need to do is go and lose that weight. Get fit. Try to see why are you doing it. Try to get the sponsorship. You can convince people. I have no idea. I didn't know the king. I didn't know anybody. But I've reached it because I really want it. I visualize it. And then it happened because, like you said in the beginning, with the alchemist, like when you want something, the whole planet will work with you to do it.
It is true. It is very important message, and I guess that's why you humbly underplayed it, because you have that deep belief that anyone can do it. But equally, what you've said is so important. You could have that 70-30 split you've mentioned. You could have £1 million of sponsorship. You could be an expert in all the equipment, and you could be as fit as a marathon runner. But if your head isn't in the right place and you don't want to push through the pain, you don't want to endure, you don't want to have the patience to do so, you're not going to get to the top of the mountain.
You're not going to do it. You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. Like anything, and listen, like anything, you go to work. If you go into work in the morning and you hate it and you just don't want to get there and you're just miserable, you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get. But if you go into work and you love getting up, going to work because there is something in your head, there is a big goal that you want to reach, you're going to go there and you're going to be in your element. It's exactly the same. It's like somebody going to school. If he hate everything about school, he hate doing, how is he going to reach university and finish and become, whatever you want to become. So it's what you want. It's the goal that you set. The summit is only a moment, is the journey that shape us, is what shaped me, is the journey, is the whole journey, is not the summit, is not me standing in the top of Everest holding the flag. That's the summit. No, it's definitely the journey, is the people that you meet in a way. And, big goals can feel overwhelming. So you have to break them small and clear, and clear step. Like, you can't say, I wanna go and climb Everest, but the only things you're concentrating on in Everest. And this is what I teach people when they come to me to climb Kilimanjaro. People sometimes in the beginning, how long do we have? How long is it going to take when we get to the summit? When we get in the high camp, and I said, you know what? Just think about reaching the next camp. Don't worry about the summit now. And like anything in life, if you make it small, clear step, and then, but where you're going, but because if you start setting these big goals, you might give up, and because it's definitely overwhelming. Preparation give you the confidence. You're prepared, you're ready, you're trained, you have the tool, you have the planning, and the most important thing is discipline. Adam, I think discipline is what can make you achieve anything in life. Because if you have that discipline, I'm going to get up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm going to be in the gym by 5. I'm going to finish. I'm going to climb. I'm going to finish work. I'm going to go swimming. I'm going to do this. On the weekend, I'm going to go hiking. I'm going to try to do everything I can. So, yeah. And I think that's, and I always also, I say these things, when we don't rise to the summit, we rise to the level of our preparation. That's how
Love
you
that.
rise.
Yeah. I love that.
That's and you were talking about resilience, which is, I love this word. I love it because that's what I do most of the time. And I think sometimes people misunderstand resilience, because resilience is not only pushing harder, it's knowing when to step back strategically. Yeah, sometimes you need to step back to recover, to see, to assess. Like, listen, why does it take 2 months to climb Everest or 70 days? Because, you reach base camp nice and easy. You go to camp 1, you stay for 1 night, you go back to base camp to climatize. You go up to 1, you go to 2, you come back to base camp. You go to 1, 2, 3, you go back to base camp.
Wow.
So you climatize. Of course, because that's the only way you're going to climatize. Your body, you're going to climatize this way. So every time you go up, so that's why resilience is not just always pushing harder.
And
sometimes.
Again, that method there, and like you said, it's that exposure and exertion, and then back to a baseline to reset, and then a bit more exposure and exertion. And again, I guess that's where discipline and resilience combine, because, like you said, resilience would be, I'm going to the top because I'm resilient. But the discipline is, no, do resilience the right way. It takes discipline not to keep going, to go to camp 1 and come back down, knowing you're going to have to do that route again after camp 2, to do that entire route again. So it takes discipline. And
because imagine you're going to climb Everest and you're going to camp 1, 2, 3, 4. you're not going to be able to. You're going to have a huge high altitude sickness. You're going to be sick all the time. So you need to resist it. And, you know, and the biggest things as well, is the teamwork that you have. Like in Everest, I have Lakpa, and you know, and I can tell there is very, very, very few people who can climb Everest in their own. If they want to do it solo and without oxygen, it's super. And some of them die in the way back, but nobody climb Everest alone. Survival is a collective thing. So, and you have help coming from everywhere. And I've learned leadership is not walking in the front, is always try to lead from behind. And that's when I lead all the expedition, that's what I do. And that's exactly what I learned from Lakpa, the Sherpa. He never walked in front. He always, he was behind me, making sure everything is okay, but he was leading from behind. And that's something I've always learned from him. So,
I love
yeah.
that. I do love that. And it's something you mentioned around goal setting and having a big goal and breaking it down into smaller steps and smaller goals. And again, the same applies to discipline. So, for example, say I work with a guy and say he has a goal of saying, okay, I want to lose, just as an example, by the end of this year, I want to lose 48 pounds. That's a massive goal. To have that always in your mind, and you're stepping on the scale and you're half a pound down and you're going to give up. Whereas when you break that down into, I want to lose 12 pounds a quarter, I want to lose £4 a month, I just want to lose a pound a week.
Absolutely.
That's much more manageable. And the same goes to discipline then. Instead of, one of the previous episodes was on discipline over motivation. Instead of treating discipline like, all right, okay, well, I don't train currently, but I'm going to be disciplined and train 7 days a week from tomorrow. It's no, you're going to set yourself up to fail there. Be disciplined with a smaller thing first. Okay, I'm going to be disciplined and I'm going to do 20 minutes of walking each day. Once I've built that layer of discipline, that bit of a foundation, I'm going to strengthen that discipline. Okay, I'm going to commit to 3 gym sessions a week, build up that confidence, strengthen that discipline. It's they go
And the
hand in hand,
plans
don't
as well.
they?
And listen, plans become useless unless we are ready to adapt. You can, like you say, with this, with anybody who plans something, if you not adapt with the client little by little, it's going to become useless. Because if you have a bigger, like you said, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to lose 10 kilos in the end of the month, or you're going to say, I'm going to lose 1 kilo, you might lose 2 kilo, you're going to be so happy. But have a long term, not always, because success require being present and responding to what is real now. It's not what's in your head next year, because you have to see it yourself to be able to be motivated. Because if you're not seeing the change in your eyes, you're not going to be motivated, you're going to be demotivated. So, and the world change faster now. Everything is faster than our expectation. So you must adjust to what you have, and then you move forward, rather than look in front of you. And so, and I don't know, John, I love John, and I always loved him. It was, I think, when I start listening to Western music when I moved to England, the Beatles was the first group that I fell in love with, and especially with John Lennon. And something that he said, that life is happening, that while we're busy doing other stuff. So life is definitely, time is moving. It's like you move with the time. So you have to focus on what's happening now, not what you wish you want to happen or what you wished was happening. So you have to so you have to be real with yourself, not strong. And this is what I do on the mountain. I'm always look at reality, not being strong and experienced. I'm so experienced, I can do whatever. No, I have to be, because every time you are in the mountain, there is something different happen,
Yeah.
and there is a big change happening. So you have to adapt with it.
Yeah, the obstacle is the way, isn't it? Like I said, the
Absolutely,
obstacle is going to
yeah.
be that you can't change it, but that is the way.
Yeah, and listen, when you're at the South Pole or the North Pole, and I've learned this fact, like, in a polar adventure, because, you're carrying all your weight, you're doing everything yourself, you're doing the cooking, you go and collect the ice, you do your water and stuff. So the polar wars teach us humility, because we are very small in the front of that nature. So you have to go there, and I always tell people, listen, if you have an ego, which is fine, and you can have an ego, it's okay to have an ego, but leave it at home, look at, and when you get to places like this, because you are super small, you cannot, it's like the greatest battle is not against the cold, it's against the fear that you have of the self-doubt. It's not the cold, it's not the wind, it's not the height, it's not the altitude, it's your attitude towards that altitude. Then you can be able to mingle with it. Like, they always say, you don't conquer the mountain, you conquer yourself. And it's true. Nobody can beat a mountain. Nobody can, you have these amazing, very strong climber, very known climber, the best of, and they die in a mountain for what? For maybe a little bit of a mistake and they're gone. So, yeah.
You mentioned something about enjoying the journey, and it's so powerful because if someone was to say, "Oh, I'll take you to the summit of Everest on a helicopter and I'll just place you on top and I'll pick up in 5 minutes," you'd probably sit up there. You'd be like, "Whoa, look at this view. This is good." Take some photos for Instagram. You'd be back down. You wouldn't have no sense of accomplishment, would you?
No,
It-
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Have you heard of the concept, the gap in the gain?
Yes,
Yeah, and
I've
I think
actually,
of that.
yeah,
Whenever I'm explaining the gap in the gain to people, I always think of it in the context of climbing a mountain, in the sense that
yes,
if you're always looking forward at how much longer is left to go, if you're always focusing on that gap, it's going to almost be depressing. But when you turn around and you look at the gain of, wow, actually look how far I've come, and you almost reward
yeah,
yourself for that, because it's in today's world, we have so much, especially social media and societal expectations. There's so much on us to achieve more, to achieve this. And I'm not just meaning physical accomplishments like climbing mountains. There's loads of, you should be earning this amount of money. You should be driving this kind of car. You should be living this kind of lifestyle, that we almost rob ourselves of the accomplishments that we've already obtained through working hard. And that's where I find the gap in the gain concept so
I
helpful,
love
really.
it. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think it's amazing. And I think it does definitely. It goes in mountaineering perfectly, because everything that you do, like 2 weeks ago I was in Kilimanjaro and I was leading an expedition, and I love Mount Kilimanjaro. It's my 44th summit or something,
Wow,
and I loved it. Yeah,
incredible.
44. So, and I love it. And I always tell people, it's not going up is difficult. It's coming down from the summit all the way, because this is when you've reached your goal, you've done everything you do, and now it's going to get difficult. You need to go down. It's
Yeah,
like, this great American mountaineer who said that going up is optional, coming down is mandatory. And it's true. Down is,
yeah,
you
yeah.
have to you have to come down. You can't
You go
stay
up, you
up
were
there.
coming down. Yeah,
Yeah, you have the option. You choose to go up, but now you need to come down. So yeah, I mean, this is. But yeah, I mean, it's the true. I think I always ask people, what is your Everest? And what mountain are you climbing today? It doesn't matter. I mean, it might not be an actual mountain. It might be something that you are trying to tackle in your life, family, work, health, a big goal that you have. So your Everest is not a place. It's who you become on the way. And that is the biggest things. That's the best things that, when we climb any mountain in our life, not an actual mountain, not just Everest, because, we all have an Everest in our life. Every day we have an Everest in our life. And I think we just have to be able to be patient and be disciplined and try to treat it like climbing a mountain. and, and always come back and reassess everything that you do. Because, we forget to go back a little bit and think, and thinking, you know what? Okay, yes, I might be able to do it better next time. Like, I go to the mountain and maybe I put this base layer and think, you know what? I'm not comfortable with it. And I can say to myself, you know what? I have to. Now that's the only option I have. When I go back again, I'm going to get something better, something that is fitting my body, is better for me. So, so you always can make the change that you want to do, but, you don't need to get stressed about it and go worry about it too much.
Yes. That's a really good point, because like you said, you could be like, oh, I don't like this base layer. It has to change now. I can't do anything in this base layer. It's all that kind of stuff. But no, it's accepting it. Look, well, this is where I am right now, but I know for next time I'll be better. I know for next time
I
I'll
be
make improvement, and not get hung up on the media. So I think one thing which will resonate so strongly with the audience, Mostafa, is everyone will get motivated by the extremes that you go through, your expeditions and your adventures, which plays on why we've created the Strong Dad Show, because modern times or modern days, especially for the modern dad, life makes it far too easy to become extremely comfortable. Men can spend most of their times indoors. You can have your food delivered. You can have your fast food delivered. You can now work from home. And in the context of comparing themselves to previous generations, men are getting softer and men are getting weaker because they're not exposing themselves to the difficulties of life. So, considering what you've gone through in your experiences, as well as being a father of 5 children, what advice would you have to the 36-year-old dad of 3 kids who's listening to this, who feels like he's lost himself and his sense of what he deems to be a man, to be capable, and he's losing his confidence? What advice would you have to him?
I mean, you know what? I always try to figure out what exactly do I want? What is my goal? And then I can work on what I want to do in life. Now, we talk about, having a 36-year-old having kids. The first time I climbed Everest, my son was 1 year old. And when I skied the South Pole and finished the Grand Slam, I had then 4 kids. And one of them actually was born when I was skiing the South Pole. So, having kids, it doesn't stop you doing the things you want to do. There is always a time. Yes, we might have a full-time job and you're working, but there is always a time. You might get up 2 hours early than anybody else. If you really want if you really, really want it, something that you really want to, I don't know, let's say this 36 years old wanted to climb a big mountain. He wanted to go to do an Everest expedition, and you have 3 kids and you have a full-time job. The first things he want to do is to keep fit, is to prepare himself to be fit. And you can fit all this by doing something earlier in the morning, and you still look after the kids, you still do the stuff. And then in the weekend, you might do hikes with the kids. You might go and do stuff that is, you can do it with the kids. But don't give up on your dream because you have children, because you will be unhappy, and then you're gonna have everyone around you unhappy. You have to do the stuff that you love to do. And I think, there is a difference here as well, Adam. I think if I came into a relationship while I was doing what I was doing, and I continue doing what I'm doing. And somebody have to understand as well. Otherwise, there's going to be lots of sacrifice. And you have to adapt with what you do. The same time, you have to take responsibility, even if you're away. So everything is fine. financially, everything is it's good, then you can go and have a peace of mind. But if there is things are going wrong and you left it there without responsibility, then you're always going to be busy thinking what's happening. And and if you have somebody at home, your partner, who does not understand what you're doing, this is going to be a big problem as well. It's not about the kids. The kids will be proud of you. The kids will, if that's what you do as a dad, they will always going to be there, and you're going to come back and you're going to see them. But I cannot talk. The thing says, I cannot talk with about other people, because you don't know what they're going through, as with work, with responsibility and stuff. So everyone have their response. For me, when I came into the relationship, I was doing what I was doing, and I'm not going to change what I'm doing. It doesn't matter what is going to be the result of me deciding that's exactly what I want to do. If somebody doesn't want to understand it, then that's fine. Everyone can move in their life, and then the kids can be always looked after by their mom and dad will take the responsibility as well. So taking responsibility is a big thing for me, but it's not easy, because there is a sacrifice in a way. And you said it yourself as well earlier. I mean, you do things in life, and you have to be selfish sometimes. You're going to be selfish, and you're going to be sacrificed. Maybe people will look at you and think, what a selfish person. But is that what you think? I don't really care, because I'm going to do exactly what I think I'm going to do. But in the same time, like, listen, I have a great relationship with my kids, with my kids from in Dublin, who with my ex, or with my, my new wife, with my new kids. But we have a great relation. I see them. I spend a great time. If I'm going there, and I spend 10 days every 8 weeks or something, I really, really spend the time with them, like fully, doing so many stuff, being in contact with them all the time. So, and that's important, to be there as a dad.
And to be
And
there present.
listen, absolutely. And listen, there is family, there is dad who's there in the house 7 days a week, but he's not present.
Exactly.
He's not present, there's
Very
lots, he's not
important
present.
message. He might be there
Because
every night, but he goes to work early, comes home late, and then he's on his phone. He's not present, and then maybe might go to the pub
thank
on
you.
Friday. So I completely understand that. And you mentioned a few really important things. Like the first one, there's always time in the morning. I know a lot of guys will be like, especially when I first audit their time, when I'm trying to get them into training, I'm like, okay, well, morning looks like it'd be the best time to train. They're like, well, I can't get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to train, because I'm not going to bed at midnight. And I'm like, okay, well, what time do the kids go to bed? 7:30. So why are you going to bed at midnight? Oh, I just like to watch TV. Why
Watch
should you stop
TV.
watching TV? Watch one episode, go to bed at 9 o'clock, get up at 5 o'clock. You've had 8 hours of sleep, and you can get your training in before the kids wake up. It's not too
And why are you
difficult
doing
to
it? Why are you
understand.
not doing it in a weekend? Because I'm gonna go in the pub and have some pints. Well,
Yeah.
don't have some pints. Go on.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
again, this
yeah.
is one of the other concepts or the reasons behind this podcast is showing the guys that you can be a high performing man and a high performing dad. You don't have to choose between them. You don't have to be a fully committed dad at the sacrifice of your
No,
dreams and your career, nor do you have to be a successful career man or following your dreams at the complete sacrifice of your family. And like you said, you spend 10 days with your kids every 8 weeks, but when you're there, you are there. Those kids will take
100%.
far more value from having those complete 10 days of quality time and presence with you than just seeing you on the sofa every evening scrolling through your phone.
Absolutely.
But it's something I
And
struggle
listen,
with as well.
I'm I'm up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm in the gym doing my 2 hours before my daughter wake up, because I know she want to play with dad, and I'm gonna take her to go and do some stuff in the park. So I'm there finishing my training, and I'm there present to take her and do stuff. And then when she have her nap in the afternoon, I go straight, have my half an hour, 45 minutes swim, and I come back. So you can adjust as well with what the kids doing. If you're going to work and the kids going, well, I'll get up that early. I do the training, and listen, the kids sleep. I mean, how long maximum they're gonna sleep at 8 o'clock in the evening? You can have 2 hours. You can do some training, you can do some planning, and go to bed by 10 and get up at 5. Do an hour and a half training and be back at home. You have a shower and then you're ready to be there with the kids before they go to school or whatever. So
when you've got your goals clearly mapped out and you understand what your purpose is, your goals are clear and you've got a plan to achieve them, it's incredible how much you can achieve in limited time. But when you don't have your goals and you don't have your plan in place, you'll just end up spending hours each week thinking of what to do. And it's almost wasted time shifting between different activities and all that. But like you said, when you know, well, this is my dream, this is my goals, I want to do this amount each week, well, I'm going to do this training session in the morning, this one in the afternoon, along these times, and you've planned it all out, you can achieve a hell of a lot without sacrificing any time as a father.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So what's next for Mostafa?
I mean, my books is next. The plan is to go back to Antarctica and do Vincent and the Last Degree, because it's going to be part of the filming of the film that I want to do about my story, which is Dreams of a Refugee. Keep keep doing what I'm doing, which is fundraising money to different charity. I have a big charity coming next year, and I start doing school. I start taking school kids to do adventure and fundraise money. And believe it or not, the 3 or 4 trips that we did for school in Jordan, we generated about maybe $2 million total from just the school. And this
People
is school
support
kids,
children.
16, 17 years old, which is amazing because, their parents help and stuff. But yeah, just doing this and looking at my kids who's getting older now. I have Zidane, who's now in Italy studying fashion design in Florence.
Wow. Well, that's cool.
Ayman and Jakob. Yeah, so I have Ayman and Jakob, and Sammy who's really into sport. Jakob is a great runner who wanted to become an Olympic runner to play for Ireland. And Sammy is a great footballer who also really concentrate on that. And also he want to play for Ireland. They all want to play for Ireland. And, I have a little girl, Amar, who's now 14 months, who's just amazing because, after 4 boys, you have a girl, and she definitely changed my life. That's really the concentration is family and, the kids, and try to keep doing what I'm doing. And, what opportunity can come. As I said, I'm always up early in the morning doing my training and staying fit, because I know there is always an opportunity is going to come, and I'm going to take it straight away. As long as this opportunity, it means something and it's going to make a difference somewhere.
And it aligns to your purpose, isn't it? So
Definitely.
So that's what's next, Mostafa. Keep being a good dad, but keep providing a benefit to the world.
Absolutely.
No, I love that. I love that. Right, as we wrap things up, Mostafa, and again, following the same tradition as we started with, considering my next guest, who you don't know who it's going to be, but put yourself in the shoes that you bump into him when he's 16 years old, which probably comes really naturally to you because you work with the school children anyway. What advice would you give him?
I will ask him, what is your Everest? What is it that you are so passionate about? Because age, it doesn't mean anything, because you can have a big dream. And I will tell him one thing that is really important, that everything you can imagine is real. So from now, imagine anything you want to be. And because in the end of the day, these things that you imagine is definitely real. The only things you need to do is to have the knowledge and the discipline to make it work, and you can achieve absolutely anything in life.
We love that, Mostafa. Thank you very much for joining us on the Strong Dad Show. Gentlemen, I will provide all the links in the show notes to Mostafa's social medias, his website, his organizations, and his books. And Mostafa, again, thank you for joining the Strong Dad Show.
Thank you very much, Adam. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
We will catch you in the next one.